Hi there. I'm going to do a review for Alien 3. This movie came out in 1992, and I basically could say it was directed by David Fincher. Although defining it as having been directed by any particular person is hard to define this one. Alien 3 is the one of the more infamous movies for having gone through multiple directors, multiple scripts, multiple everything. I'm not sure there's a movie with a big, well, at least big budget movie with a bigger mess than this one. Um, Funny thing is, for all intents and purposes, it actually looks pretty good. It's actually a pretty good looking film. But whether or not you like the dreariness and the downbeat nature of the entire thing, I don't know. It's just one of those films that has its problems. Overall, I don't mind it. It's just it to me it feels like Alien. With you only got one alien prowling around a what is essentially is a prison. What happens is Sigourney Weaver, as Ellen Ripley, leaves off from Aliens with the little capsule ship floating around. Or Sigourney, it's Ellen Ripley and not Hudson Hicks and the kid from Aliens, and they're floating around, and they end up crash landing on a prison planet. And of course, the truth is that what we thought we knew from the previous movie, turned out to be wrong. There was an alien on board, and there was indeed an escape. Now, this film, of course, this is the reason why this film has problems. It started out in a totally different perspective, in a totally different place than what the film ended up being. There was so many different ideas from it. I think it's because of the fact that Aliens was such a blockbuster in the wake of the first movie that they decided they had to make another Alien movie. They capitalize on the trend of Alien. Um, it's almost a wonder this movie even came out at all. I guess 20th Century Fox just felt like they had to make something out of it. They had to try and break even. They had to try and break the taxes on it. So you end up with Alien 3. Um, and it's on a prison planet, so it's kind of a weird movie. The prison, though, is kind of ironic because nothing works. It's obviously been fairly left to lackluster in the last, looks like over at least a decade or two. Like it looks like one of those places that at one point was a thriving prison, and then they kind of forgot about it, and it's almost like they just totally forgot about the place and just said, "Yep, this prison is a place is terrible. We don't have nothing works. We got tons of technology, none of it works." But it's a funny movie because there's no weapons on this planet. I guess they wanted to keep the prisoners semi defenseless. They didn't want to have any problems. But I don't know. It's one of those movies that gets made where it's got the look and feel all right. Like that's the one thing about the Alien franchise. They've managed to maintain the look and feel of Alien, even if they can't seem to get the screenplays or the scripts to work. And that's where the problem really arises. These screenplays and these scripts are going steadily downhill with each Alien movie. Um, I don't know. I don't think this movie is necessarily bad per se. And the thing is there's actually several different cuts of this film. There's the theatrical cut, which I like well enough, but the theatrical cut, is kind of like the one that everybody doesn't like to a certain extent. I think what people have kind of or agreed upon is that the assembly cut is actually the superior cut of the film. Um, More or less, this alien is born out of what is it, an ox or a bull or I forget what is cow or something like that. And so it attains some of the stuff. That's in the assembly, in the regular cut. There's so many different cuts. one of the cuts, it's the dog. I think the assembly cut's the one where it bursts out of the dog. I think in the regular cut it comes out of the cow. I forget. I tend to get lost on this one, which one is which. Problem is that it doesn't really matter. It assumes a different form that it's used to. Normally, we were seeing it bursting out of people, so of course, it attains some of the schematics of the human. But this movie here, it's running around like a little, almost like a dog, which, yeah, that was one of the original ideas, and so they end up with a bit of a mess of a movie. This movie has some interesting creative choices. The monks on this planet, originally this plan was to use monks on this planet. It got warped into a bunch of prisoners who were trying to right their wrongs with God. So you end up with a whole bunch of guys who are trying to be loyal to uh, their higher power. And apparently they have Bibles on this planet. Apparently there's a decision to have Bibles. And altogether, it looks all right. It feels pretty good. Although one of the key characters, I think Charles Dance should have been in this film a lot longer than he was. I'm kind of disappointed they killed him off so very quickly. But yeah, it works on a certain level. I like all the Alien movies to a certain extent. This movie, though, is not everybody's cup of tea. It's very depressing because, of course, Ellen is trying to figure out. They're all trying to figure out where the alien is. She goes out on her own a few times to search for the alien, and she basically finds out that the alien is not. It won't. First of all, she finds out it won't kill her, and she eventually figures out why it won't kill her. Apparently, she's harboring a key alien member, a possible queen alien. So that's what the thing is that this movie's all about the fact that Ellen Ripley found out that she was harboring a new alien. And at the end of the film, of course, she has to kill herself. She has to go lower herself down into the vat of molten metal. I think this is the one film where they kind of prove just how tough the aliens are because the alien falls into a vat of molten metal or molten mercury or whatever. I forget. It's a heavy metal. It's molten, and it falls in, and it manages to survive this hit. So that's actually tells you how impressive its abilities are. It tells you that all along that this thing's as tough as nails. It was not going to be the easiest thing for them to kill. However, I think that's also the detriment to the previous film because in Aliens, of course, the Marines have all the weaponry necessary to shoot, to kill these things. In this film, they don't really have much of anything. They're kind of running around. Of course, that becomes a bit of a joke because everybody knows the aliens should be able to easily catch any one of these guys, but whatever, it doesn't. It gets nice long shots of aliens chasing around human beings in tunnels. All in all, I think it worked out. I think it worked out fine, well enough. I don't think they made their money back on this film. Over time, I think it's gotten steadily improvement in how it's favored. But yeah, it definitely was a disappointment, to say the least, in the theaters. Didn't do particularly well. I think Fox just had to save face on this movie, so they had to release this film in whatever shape it was in and just put it out there and just let people decide whether it was worthy. I don't think it did particularly well in the box office, so yeah. All in all, I think it's probably the least of the original Alien movies, although it's a tough call because they all have different issues. Although Alien is definitely the best, but yeah, I think Alien 3. It's hard to talk about it because it's got so many problems with film and so many different ways they produced it. And then you have a final director come in there and finally say, "This is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna get this stupid thing done." And I think even the studio is getting a little bit the waste feeling it was wasting his time. I don't know why they. I'm surprised they didn't just kill the project halfway through. I guess they felt like they spent too much money on it and they needed to release something in the theaters. But yeah, it's another Alien movies. Instead of many aliens, it's just one alien again, just like an Alien. And Ellen Ripley ends up having to deal the death blow to the so-called queen alien baby, the larva. So yeah, all in all, decent film, not too bad. It works.